Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this episode 3749 BN. Today's date is October 9th, 2025, and the title of the episode is, Did the D's project the start of the insurrection? Trump trapped the D's with peace. Let's talk about our health. A meta-analysis of 23 controlled trials showed that people taking collagen supplements saw real improvement in skin hydration, elasticity, and reductions in wrinkle depth. That means collagen isn't just a beauty fad. It's one of the most studied supplements proven to actually change how your skin looks and feels. This is why I use today's sponsor, Ageless Multi-Collagen, and I'm obsessed with how it makes my skin look. It supercharges my skin with 5 types of premium collagen needed to help reduce wrinkles. Since I started drinking collagen daily, I've noticed smoother skin, more elasticity, fewer fine lines, and youthful glow. Plus, it also helps improve my joint health, bone strength, and connective tissue. Grab a bag of Ageless Multi-Collagen for 51% off only at healthwithx22.com and start experiencing real results. Plus, they have a promotion right now that includes free VIP health and fitness coaching for life, a free ebook titled The 14 Foods for Amazing Skin, a 60-day satisfaction guarantee, and free shipping with every order. Once again, the site is healthwithx22.com, or just click the link in the description. Let's get into the economic collapse, political, and geopolitical news. Now, the deep state, the corrupt politicians, big tech fake news, the puppet masters, you can see why they're having a very, very difficult time. There's panic everywhere. Trump and the Patriots, they're basically trapping them in everything that they have done over the many, many years. And now with the indictment of Comey, and now we've just learned the indictment of Letitia James, you could see where all this is headed right now. And they are now starting to panic like we've never seen before. And this is why, with everything that is happening, they're going to have to push major, major distractions. And we know that they're going to be pushing an insurrection. You could see they're fighting with everything that they have to keep the illegals in position, to keep Antifa in position, to keep their criminals in position, because when all else fails and they have nothing else to lose, what are they going to do? They're going to push riots. Plus, they're also going to try to push war. And this is going to be a major problem for them because, again, you have one side, and we've said this many times before, you have one side where they are war makers. And then you have the other side, which is Trump and MAGA. They are peacemakers. So Trump right now is trapping the deep state players in peace because they don't know what to do with peace. They don't want peace. And when there is peace, of course, they can't say, hey, we want war. So all the warmongers have to say, hey, this is a great thing. And in the background, without anyone seeing what they're really thinking, they're saying, crap, this is no good. We can't have this peace. We want war. That's the whole purpose. We need a distraction. And step by step, what do you think Trump is going to do? He's going to shut down the warmongers. Here we are with Gaza right now. He's making a deal with Israel, ending 3,000 years of war in the Middle East. We're going to have nations sign on to the Abraham's Accord, and the only nation that's going to be left is Iran. And eventually what Trump is going to do, he's going to have peace with Iran. Actually, Iran is going to be isolated. Now, again, the deep state players, they might try some type of false flag in the beginning stages. They might try to do something, but I don't think it's going to work this time around. Plus, if you notice, since Trump went ahead and made the peace deal, we have certain nations like France, Germany, UK. They're all saying, hey, you know what? We could step in now and we can make like a peace negotiation board. Maybe we can help out. Of course, they're jumping on the bandwagon. And do they really want peace, or are they creating the board to actually push us right back into war? Maybe these installed politicians should worry about their own countries because, you know, Starmer's in trouble, Merz is in trouble, Macron's in trouble. Many of these installed politicians, they are in trouble. And you could see that they're going to do whatever they possibly can to try to make sure there isn't peace. But I think Trump, I think he has a handle on this. And I think the world now is watching and they're saying, holy crap, this guy deserves a Nobel Peace Prize. Just think about it. Just a couple of days ago, the officials in the Nobel Peace Prize says there's no way we're going to give it to Trump. But they gave it to Obama, who did absolutely nothing. Actually, he started more wars and he didn't even do anything. And they awarded him the Nobel Peace Prize. Actually, he destroyed the country. I think Trump just said this. So think about all of this and think about what is happening right now. Trump now is trapping them step by step in peace. Remember, they are the war makers. So every step of the way, the deep state players, they're being boxed in, and it's becoming more and more difficult for them to do anything. And in the end, they won't have any type of ammunition left because, again, once they move forward with their riots, once they try to bring us to war with Russia, and it all fails, and Trump and team cleans it up here in this country and there's no riots, and negotiates peace with Russia and Ukraine, what does the deep state players have left? What do the deep state players around the world, what do they have left? They have nothing left. This is how you weaken the deep state players every step of the way. Trump right now is gaining tremendous leverage. As the people see this, not just in this country, but around the world, the people are watching this very, very closely saying, wow, it took this outsider a couple of months to negotiate peace. Remember, he hasn't been president that long in his third term. I mean, it's not even a year yet. And already he's negotiating peace with Gaza. Think about how many wars he's stopped already. Is this the 8th one already? I think with Iran, I think that's going to be 9, and Russia and Ukraine is going to be 10. When it's all said and done, when you look back in time, they're going to say, wow, President Trump was voted in. It took him, 8, 9 months, negotiated peace. That is record-breaking time. Unbelievable. We're going to be talking a lot more about this a little bit later. But first, let's talk about what's happening out in California because they caught the arsonist. And remember, during the fires, we had Gavin Newsom out there letting everyone know that this is a wake-up call for climate change because they were trying to convince everyone that the fires were created because of climate change. They're just starting up. This is what happens. And then, of course, as we know, there was an arsonist. And I do believe it's probably more than one. And who was behind all of this? Because, again, this guy just didn't wake up one day saying, listen, I just want to start fires all over the place. I do believe this was a coordinated effort, just like with Antifa. We've come to learn that, hey, our taxpayers have been paying for Antifa, which I think we already knew. I think we already knew that a lot of the money was transferred into Soros and many other NGOs, then transferred into Antifa. And we've been paying for all these people. And what's very interesting about Antifa is when people say, don't they have jobs? Yeah, they have a job. They're getting paid to be Antifa. That's their job. That's what they're paid for. And who's paying for, let's see, fires, destruction, looting? Oh, wait, we the people are. Just like with everything else. But when you look at the California fires, you could see that Newsom, he was able to snow the Democrats there. They truly believe that all these fires were because of climate change. Rasmussen Reports put this out in January 2025. How likely is that the recent wildfires in Los Angeles, California was caused by climate change? National Democrats only. 45% very likely, 32% somewhat likely, 10% not very likely, 6% not at all likely, 7% not sure. So basically, all these people were convinced that it was climate change. Paul Sperry says virtually every major fire in California that global warming zealots have claimed was caused by the climate change turned out to be caused by either an arsonist or a public utility spark. And think about it. If we didn't have all this dry brush, if we had the water in the reservoirs, if the fire hydrants were working, would we have a problem there? No. But the bigger question is, you have to go back to the source. Who is actually paying for all of this? And think about it. This left-wing terrorist, Jonathan Rinderneck, he donated to Joe Biden and Kamala Harris through Act Blue. This should tell you everything you need to know. And you can see the D's, it looks like they're trying to provoke ICE, trying to provoke the National Guard. And I don't mean that just screaming in their faces. I think the D's right now, they're trying to push the insurrection. And I think Adam Schiff kind of spilled the beans on what their plans are. We'll be talking about that in just a second. It actually, from what I'm going to tell you next, it kind of goes along with this, and you can see what they're trying to push. So basically, we had an incident, and there was a Tahoe that was driven by Border Patrol, ICE, and there were two vehicles that were boxing in the Tahoe, trying to make it crash, or maybe something else happened here. And one of the individuals in the Tahoe, the Border Patrol, took out a gun and said, back off. And I think what the deep state players are trying to do is they're trying to provoke ICE, National Guard, to try to do something. And think about how Antifa operates. They get in your face, they get very close to you, or they'll push their body into you, and they'll say, hey, look, they're hitting me, they're touching me, they're doing this. They've been trained to do this. But look what Chris Murphy put out of Connecticut. This is out of hand. These agents are there to cause trouble and violence, not to keep people safe. These are the scenes that play out in war-torn, destitute countries, not America. Well, Tricia McLaughlin had to correct him and everybody else, and she said the following. Here is the real story. As Border Patrol was conducting a targeted enforcement, a vehicle started aggressively trailing our officers and intentionally veered into their vehicle in an apparent attempt to ram law enforcement vehicles. Despite the barrage of violent attacks, DHS Gov, law enforcement, these agents fully followed their training. This is a pepper ball gun used for riot control without causing lethal injuries. Aggressors and violent activists who wish to harm and intimidate our officers should not be surprised when protective measures are displayed to prevent violence against our officers. We aren't playing. Now, think about what the deep state players are trying to do here. They were trying to provoke the officers into firing. I don't think they realized it was a pepper ball gun. And again, this is not the response they actually wanted, but they used the gun sticking out of the car to create the illusion that it was a real gun, that they were going to murder these people. And I do believe this is what they're trying to do to start the insurrection. We'll be talking about Adam Schiff in a little bit. And you can see, once again, the governors, the mayors of all these different states where they have to keep their illegals intact, their criminals intact, Antifa intact, they don't want to budge. And they're going to keep the rhetoric up because, again, their only alternative, because they have nothing else to lose, is to actually start the insurrection. And it looks like Governor Pritzker took a shot at Pete Hegseth. And this is what Governor Pritzker said. Pete Hegseth was busy ignoring his job and doing push-ups as part of a show for the Guinness Book of World Records, while Illinoisians are being invaded by Trump's military troops. Well, Pete Hegseth responded and said, Governor, you might try a push-up or two. In the meantime, our troops will do the job you refuse to do. Boom. He just got him. And think about it. Every time these people try to speak up or try to get anyone in the Trump administration, they hit these people back really, really hard. And you can see that Governor Pritzker, he is now issuing a challenge to Trump, and he's telling Trump to come and get him. Well, eventually what's going to happen is he'll be arrested. I think Trump is already letting us know that, yeah, he should be arrested. Well, think about it. If they're all for the insurrection and they're supporting Antifa, they're supporting the illegals, they're supporting the criminals to go after federal troops, that is the insurrection against a sitting president, isn't it? Does that mean he can be arrested? I do believe so. But the other thing that's very interesting, and Dapper Detective put this out, is that a Chinese illegal alien harbored by Governor Pritzker in Chicago was just indicted for running a human sex trafficking ring in Ohio. So basically, this individual came into this country illegally. And this individual is Zhao Ping Peng, 53, of Chicago, Illinois. He was on a list of serious felony charges tied to a prostitution and trafficking enterprise that operated out of a so-called Chinese spa located on Delaware Avenue. So Peng entered the United States illegally during the Biden administration and managed to remain in Chicago after filing an asylum claim, a loophole frequently exploited under the administration open border policy. And this was in Pritzker's state. And now this individual is being indicted. So basically, more and more criminals. That's what we have in this country. Homeland Security put this out and says, Governor Pritzker is doing everything in his power to protect criminal, illegal aliens, and domestic terrorists. He continues to shamelessly lie about the brave men and women of federal law enforcement and their targeted operations. Pritzker lie. This is an unconstitutional invasion of Illinois by the federal government. For weeks now, Trump, Kristi Noem, Gregory Bovino have brought their militarized ZBP, CPP, and ICE agents to the streets of Chicago to cause violence and chaos in the city. Facts. This is neither unconstitutional nor an invasion. Trump has the authority under the Constitution to deploy troops wherever they're stationed to defend federal facilities from attacks. Whether it's the ICE facility in Broadview or the courthouse in Portland, we will defend federal property wherever they're under siege. Pritzker lie. They're raiding neighborhoods where instead of going after bad guys, they're just picking up people who are brown and black, then checking their credentials. Facts. Since Operation Midway Blitz began in Illinois last month, ICE and CBP officers have arrested more than 1,000 illegal aliens, including the worst of the worst pedophiles, child abusers, kidnappers, Tren de Aragua, gang members, and murderers. Allegations that DHS law enforcement officers engage in racial profiling are false. What makes someone a target for immigration enforcement is if they are illegally in the U.S., not their skin color, race, or ethnicity. Pritzker lie. People are getting detained. They're getting arrested. U.S. citizens. They did this when they raided a building in the middle of the night in South Shore. 130 people. They were emptied out of this building. They were going after a few gangbangers, and instead they broke windows, they broke down doors, they ransacked the place. They are the ones that are making it a war zone. Fact. ICE does not arrest or deport U.S. citizens. Any U.S. citizen arrested are because of obstructing or assaulting law enforcement. Law enforcement conducted a targeted operation at an apartment building in the South Shore community of Chicago. This operation resulted in the arrest of 37 illegals. Among them were Tren de Aragua gang members and violent criminals. Pritzker lie. There were people who were held, elderly people and children zip-tied, elderly people held for 3 hours at a time. Facts. Children were never zip-tied. This claim originated from a viral parody video on TikTok. The officer in the video was the father of the toddler seen in the image. Pritzker lie. On September 12th, I shot and killed a man in Franklin Park, a nearby suburb of Chicago. His name was Silverio Villegas Gonzalez. Reports say that he had just dropped his kids off at a daycare and was headed to work. Facts. Silverio was an illegal alien who, when law enforcement ordered him to stop his car, instead drove his car at the officers. One of the ICE officers was hit by the car and dragged significant distance. Fearing for his own life and broader public safety, the officer fired his weapon. Despite his injuries, the officer and his partner immediately started administering emergency medical care to the illegal alien, who was pronounced dead. Gonzalez, who was the target of the operation, was a criminal illegal with a history of reckless driving. Pritzker lie. In the small suburb village of Broadview, with a population of 8,000, federal agents have turned 2 blocks of protest areas into a war zone by firing tear gas and chemical agents at peaceful protesters. Facts. Rioters in Illinois have been anything but peaceful. Over the weekend, Border Patrol law enforcement officers were ambushed by domestic terrorists that rammed federal agents with their vehicles. One woman, Marimar Martinez, driving one of the vehicles, was armed with a semi-automatic weapon and has a history of doxing federal agents. She took defensive fire from the CBP agents, has been discharged from the hospital, and is currently in the custody of the FBI. The driver of another vehicle, Anthony Ian Santos Ruiz, involved in the ramming, has been apprehended by law enforcement. So basically, he just continues to lie, and these are criminals that are in this country. And we voted, the people voted for Trump. The people saw what was happening, and they said enough is enough. Now, I do believe what the D's are trying to do, they are trying to keep this shutdown going long enough so the ICE agents, the National Guard, and everyone else, they don't get their paycheck. They're hoping to shut them down, and they're hoping a lot of these individuals say, I'm not going to do my job unless I get pay. Now, I don't think this is going to work. Again, this is only, the 8th or 9th day of the I think it's the 9th day of the shutdown. And I don't believe that these individuals are going to go home and say, I'm done. I mean, they're hoping if they keep it shut down for 1 or 2 months that this will happen. But I don't think this will happen. And think about it. Once Trump and his team remove and deport all these illegals, you know what happens to the country? Well, when you mass deport, it equals lower rent. When you mass deport, it equals less crime. When you mass deport, traffic eases. When you mass deport, there's less spending. When you mass deport, cleaner streets. When you mass deport, jobs for citizens. When you mass deport, English in public areas. When you mass deport, you have a cohesive society. That's what Trump is doing. And think about it. The people of these areas like Chicago and D.C. and Portland, the actual citizens who live there, the American citizens, they are actually happy. Let me ask you something. How much time do you spend every day on web browser? How much time do you spend clicking around online, searching, scrolling, typing, endless tabs? It's a lot, right? Well, there's a new AI web browser from Perplexity called Comet that is completely changing the way you are able to interact with your browser. Using Comet feels like having a personal assistant living in your web browser that can actually do things for you across the internet. Yes, do things, not just give you answers. You can ask Comet to handle tasks for you, and it literally clicks, types, searches, and scrolls just like you would to get things done for you in the background while you go about your day. Comet can shop for you, make reservations, book travel, summarize articles or videos, send emails, schedule meetings, and a lot more to make your life easier. Let me show you how it works. Comet can be used for everything. It does everything for you. Like if you wanted to travel, all you got to do is tell it what you want. It could book a flight. If you want to go shopping, all you have to do is ask it, and it will do exactly what you want. It's pretty cool, right? Download Perplexity's new AI web browser, Comet, by heading to pplx.ai/x22 and let your browser work for you. Plus, right now, when you download Comet, you get a month of Rumble Premium for free. That's pplx.ai/x22. Go now and take back your time online. And remember, Comet doesn't just give answers. It actually gets things done for you. Because it is a web browser, Comet can use all the accounts you already logged into to take action across the web. Comet takes actions like a human online. It can click, type, scroll, and fill out forms just like you would. Saves time and mental energy. So take back your time online, or just click the link in the description. That the CBP, the National Guard, that they're all there helping. And what's very interesting, the Commander Op at Large, Gregory K. Bovino, he put out a video showing that the people like him there because they feel safe. They feel like the city's being cleaned up. They feel like crime is going down because it is. And this is something the fake news doesn't want to show anyone. And he goes around bumping fists with all the people that live in this area. And once again, you could see it's the opposite story of what the fake news is trying to tell everyone. And once again, this happened in D.C., it's happening in Memphis, it's happened in L.A., it's happening in Portland, and this is something the D's, the fake news, don't want to show anyone. But in the end, the people of those areas, they understand what's happening, and that's the most important thing. And this is why the deep state players, the D's, are so panicked, because these are their voters. They don't want their voters to see that, wait a minute, you can just clean crime up like this? You could deport all these people this easily? Why haven't the governors, why haven't the mayors done this? And you know what these people are going to do? They're not going to vote for the mayors, the D governors. They're going to vote for Trump and his team. And this is why they don't want this to happen. Plus, what else is Trump doing? He's trying to mitigate all this because he's trying to clean up the streets as best he possibly can, because when they try to push their insurrection across the country, well, there's going to be a lot less people. And it's going to be a lot easier because he's pre-positioning all the troops. So this is why the D's are so panicked. Plus, if they're going to lose their constituents, and I don't mean the American citizens, I'm talking about the illegals and the criminals, who's going to vote for them? Nobody. And you could see that Adam Schiff, he tried to push a bill in the Senate where Trump won't have the authority to actually destroy the cartels that are shipping drugs into this country. Remember, the cartels right now, they are terrorist organizations. And there were a couple of Republicans that decided to take the side of Schiff, which I find very, very interesting. But let's go back a little bit in time, and DC Drano put this out. Rand Paul, back in the day when Obama was actually conducting drone attacks on Al-Qaeda in other countries, Rand Paul was all for this back in 2015. Now that Trump is destroying these drug cartels and destroying the boats, Rand Paul's not for it. DC Drano says, I'm confused. Rand Paul doesn't think Trump can drone strike narco terrorists coming to kill Americans. But he did think Obama could drone strike terrorists attacking other countries. Interesting. So what's changed? I wonder. Now, the other thing that we could see is that countries like UK, Germany, France, Spain, they're having major, major problems, especially France. Macron right now, I mean, he's on his, eighth prime minister right now? And he doesn't want to have snap elections because he knows what's going to happen. So what is he doing? He's going to name a new prime minister once again. How do you think this is all going to work out? I think he's kind of screwed. And out in Spain, it looks like they might be going through another blackout because the Spain grid's operator, they're warning of a new voltage swing, and they're urging measures to avoid another massive blackout. So it looks like they tried to go green, and it's not working out too well for them, and there might be a blackout. I wouldn't be surprised if this blackout spreads across Europe, because if you don't want the people to see what's truly happening, what do? You shut down the power, you shut down communications. I wouldn't be surprised as time goes on, this is something that they do, but we'll have to see what's happening. Out in Italy, we can see Meloni. She now has introduced a new bill to combat Islamist and cultural separatism. Right now, there's going to be a full burqa ban in all public places, streets and schools, shops and offices. All mosque financing must be disclosed. Foreign funding considered a threat to Italian values will be banned. So they're cracking down on all these individuals coming into the country. And you have to remember, this is all driven by Soros and others to basically destroy every single country and blend the country and actually force the citizens in every single country into digital ID. Because think about it, anyone that doesn't accept the digital ID, you can't work. So even the citizens of those countries, they're forced into accepting the digital ID, because if the citizen doesn't accept it, they can't work. See how this works? And they used the illegals in their country to push this agenda. They created a problem, and they're giving the people a solution. And those people that don't want the solution, guess what? You can't work. Now, what do you think the digital ID is going to be used for? It's going to be used for controlling speech. It's going to be used to keep people in line. And it looks like the Irish government is not going along with the EU when it comes to hate speech laws. Michael O'Keefe put this out and said, the Irish government has informed the EU they will not comply with the demand to force hate speech laws on the public. And this is huge. And I think a lot of the other countries in the EU, they need to really start to fight back. And think about it. Like we said before, we had Adam Schiff. He took to the Senate floor and he wanted to force a vote on his war powers resolution. And the other individual that went along with him is Senator Tim Kaine. And we'll be talking about Tim Kaine a little bit later because his son is part of Antifa. And there was a vote on all this, and it looks like Adam Schiff lost. And it looks like he didn't get his resolution. So Trump, he can continue destroying those individuals that are trying to destroy the people of this country. So once again, they're trying to stop Trump, but it's not working. And think about it. He's taking the side of drug traffickers coming out of Venezuela. They're taking the side of the cartels. I think that tells you everything you need to know. And think about it. When you look at Ukraine, who are they really protecting in the end? Are they protecting Biden? Yeah, in some way. But who are they really protecting? Obama. Actually, if you look at everything with Comey and everyone else, they're all protecting Obama because everything goes back to Obama. All roads lead to Obama. Clandestine put this out and said the Ukraine scandal is not actually about Biden. It's about Obama. It was Obama's CIA State Department who took over Ukraine in 2014 via color revolution. Joe and Hunter were just layers of separation, bagmen. Obama is the one they are protecting. The left's darling is a traitor, and he absolutely is a traitor. And you could see Trump during a press conference. Rubio came up to him and whispered in his ear and basically told him that they have a deal in the Middle East. And there's now a peace, the first phase of the peace deal with Hamas, the Palestinians, and Israel. which is absolutely incredible. And when you look at this image, it looks very, very similar to the image when someone whispered into Bush's ear when 9/11 was happening, when the World Trade Center was coming down. And what's very interesting is MAGA Maha 2025 says, well, when Bush was whispered in his ear, that's when the war began. When Trump was whispered in his ear, when Rubio whispered in his ear, the war now is ending. And I wonder if Trump is sending a message to Bush and all those individuals that actually brought down the World Trade Center, because we know it wasn't Al-Qaeda. We know that this was an inside job to bring us to war out in the Middle East. So once again, we can see that I think Trump is sending a very clear message to them. And Trump, he's expecting the remaining hostages to be released on Monday. And it looks like Trump is going to be visiting Israel for a couple of hours to get the deal done. So when is he looking to go out there? Well, it looks like he's going to go out there on Sunday, and we'll have to see how this all plays out. Now, think about this. Trump now is ushering in peace. And think about what the D's, the fake news, have been calling Trump: a fascist and Hitler. I didn't know Hitler ushered in peace. I didn't know fascists, they ushered in peace. It seems like he's doing the opposite of what they're calling him. C3 put this out and said, Democrats trying to figure out how to make Trump out to be a fascist for creating peace deal between Israel and Hamas. So think about it. Their entire rhetoric of calling him Hitler. Hitler created war. He was taking over the world. He was torturing people. Same thing with Mussolini, who was a fascist. And Trump now is having peace in all different countries. I think the title doesn't fit. Actually, they should take those titles and give it to Obama, Clinton, Bush, and many other people. Trump, he put this out on Truth. He said the following: I'm very proud to announce that Israel and Hamas have both signed off on the first phase of our peace plan. This means that all the hostages will be released very soon, and Israel will withdraw their troops to an agreed-upon line as the first steps toward a strong, durable, and everlasting peace. All parties will be treated fairly. This is a great day for the Arab Muslim world, Israel, all surrounding nations, and the United States of America. And we thank the mediators from Qatar, Egypt, and Turkey who work with us to make the historic and unprecedented event happen. Blessed are the peacemakers. Donald J. Trump, President of the United States of America. So think about this. Antifa now has been going around saying free, free Palestine. Now they're going to have to come up with a completely different slogan, and they're going to have to change costumes again. Actually, it kind of seems like Trump and team, they're now forcing them down the path where they will only now go after the federal government. Because think about it. In the very beginning, Antifa was being used for climate. They were using Antifa for BLM and race riots. They used Antifa for Free Palestine. And now all they have left is going after federal buildings, federal agents, attacking the federal government. So it looks like Trump now is pushing them and boxing them in for them to have an insurrection against the United States of America. And remember, they are now deemed to be a terrorist organization of this country. And we'll be talking a little bit more about Antifa a little bit later. But since Trump made the peace deal, what is happening right now? It looks like UK, France, and Germany, they want to take control, and they want to create the Gaza Board of Peace. Do you really think that's why they want to take control? Do you really think they're all for peace? No, they want to take control of what Trump just did so they can start the war up again. So this is going to be very, very interesting because think about it. Macron, he's in trouble. Keir Starmer, he's in trouble. Friedrich Merz, he's in trouble. They want to be the board of peace when they're trying to push war? It doesn't make any sense. But let's see how this all plays out. This is going to be very, very interesting. The White House put this out and says the peace president, and shows a picture of Trump. He's wearing a yellow tie, and it says the peace president. And think about it. Trump, He stopped 7 different conflicts already. This is his 8th. Israel and Iran, he de-escalated that. Rwanda and the Republic of Congo, Armenia and Azerbaijan, Thailand and Cambodia, India and Pakistan, Egypt and Ethiopia, Serbia and Kosovo, and now we have Gaza and Israel. Soon he'll be bringing peace with Iran, and I do believe Iran now is going to be isolated. They'll probably be the only country that didn't sign on to the Abraham Accords, and this is going to be major trouble. And then he will bring peace to Ukraine and Russia. Now, of course, the deep state players, they're not going to like this. They're going to try to push war. And I do believe this is why they're trying to create the board of peace in Gaza. I don't know if Trump is going to go along with that because I don't think they really want peace. If they truly wanted peace, they would have been pushing peace from the very, very beginning. If you notice, they haven't done any of this. Same thing with Ukraine and Russia. Have they been pushing peace out there? Remember, these leaders, I shouldn't even call them leaders, they're the installed politicians. They're doomed. If they don't have a war, if they don't have a major distraction, they're going to be thrown out of office. They know this. Their handlers know this. So this is going to be very, very interesting moving forward. But you know what's really interesting? Katie Porter. She is a nutcase, and I think the people of this country, they're starting to realize that these people cannot hold it together anymore. And I wouldn't be surprised if the Democrats decided to leak certain information to get her out of running for governor. I think they have somebody else in mind. Actually, The Last Refuge put this out and said, Democrats have decided to remove Katie Porter from the California governor race. It is obvious in the coverage and leaks from the last 48 hours. The party has something or someone else in mind. It's how they roll. And I do agree with this, but she is a nutcase. And remember, these individuals, they play a role. And a lot of times they do a very good job in convincing you that they're normal. But in reality, they're nutcases. Those are the people that they want in these positions. So I guess they found a better nutcase to take on the governor role. Let's see who it is, because this is going to be very, very interesting. But the other thing that's really interesting is that the individual, Cecil Brockman, the Democrat North Carolina state representative, he was arrested for allegedly raping a child. And you know what's very interesting about this? He has a youth center named after him. You really can't make this stuff up. Libs of TikTok put this out and says, North Carolina State Rep Cecil Brown has been arrested and charged with a statutory rape of a 13 to 15-year-old minor. Brockman also reportedly tried to use his status to gain information about the victim's location while the victim was at the hospital. So that is very, very interesting. And why do all these individuals, why do they always have something to do with children? Oh, I'm going to start up a school, or I'm going to donate to this. It always seems they do this to ease their conscience. But again, they are criminals. And look at the people that they bring in. It's absolutely unbelievable. And the other criminal that we should be talking about right now, and Nick sort of put this out, is New York Attorney General Letitia James. She has just been indicted by a grand jury on federal bank fraud charges. So this is very, very interesting. So now we have Comey, who's indicted, and now Letitia James has been indicted. Now, once again, let's see what judges they get. Let's see how this all plays out. I do believe Trump and the Patriots right now, they're testing the waters with these low-level criminals. But it's good to see that Letitia James now, she has been indicted. And these, you have to remember, these cases are black and white. They actually, like Comey, lied to Congress. She signed a document that she filled out and she lied on it. These are open and shut cases. I think Trump and the Patriots, they're testing the waters right here, which is very, very interesting. And you can see CNN right now, they're trying to protect Antifa. I think MSNBC, the D's, they're all going to protect Antifa. You know why? Because they're part of Antifa. Andrew Colvett put this out and said, unbelievable. CNN's Aaron Burnett just parroted Antifa propaganda on air while managing to take swipes at the right-wing extremists. Antifa is far from a major sophisticated terror organization like Hezbollah, Hamas, and ISIS. In fact, it's not even like the far-right groups like the Proud Boys and Oath Keepers, which have national leaders unlike Antifa. This is not organized hierarchy to the group. Well, number one, they're just not an organization where they have no leaders and they're just doing things willy-nilly. They definitely have leaders. They have funding. They have it all. And what's very interesting, and you can see this is why they're protecting Antifa. Fagustra put this out and said, Woody Kane, a member of the international terrorist organization known as Antifa, was arrested over the weekend. His father is none other than Democrat Senator Tim Kaine. Wait a minute, wasn't Tim Kaine working with Adam Schiff on a bill to stop Trump from bombing the cartels? It's all starting to make sense right now. And think about it. Who's been funding Antifa? Well, the White House has revealed that over $100 million in taxpayer cash and laundered Democrat donations funneled Antifa. It went through linked orgs. It went through NGOs. It went into protest networks. This is what they've been using the money. So all the money that's been shipped up into Soros, he then distributes through the different NGOs. And it goes into these different groups that support Antifa. So basically, this entire time, they've been using the Federal Reserve, which is a loan sharking system. They've been creating fake programs, maybe 5, maybe 10% or less, goes to the fake programs that they create. They launder the money out to all the different NGOs. Remember, there's no employees, there's nothing. They're just shell companies. That is then laundered to other NGOs into Soros. Then he launders that money into other protest NGOs or Antifa through many other shell companies. And we, the people, have been paying for all of this. So once again, it's all starting to come out in the open. And what's very interesting is Kash Patel is letting everyone know that they're following the money. Lisa May put this out and said, during today's White House Antifa roundtable, FBI Director Kash describes how they're using a whole of government approach to map out the Antifa networks and their financing sources. And she says, this reminds me of post 4,766. It says, two defounded financially legal backed orgs. DA set free blockade post-terrorist designate. DA no proof, individual link to Antifa, argument coming. Antifa mapping began long ago. So basically, Kash said they built this disease temple of corruption over decades. And basically, when all this is put out into the open, this is going to be biblical. Now, Adam Schiff did say something very, very interesting, and it looks like he might be saying the quiet part out loud, and we could see what the Antifa crew has done with ICE, the Border Patrol, with the Tahoe that we talked about before, where they tried to box them in and they're trying to use the gun pointing as a very scary thing. Like, oh my God, they're coming to attack us. Schiff says we can't rule out Trump launching military strikes on domestic groups. So what I do believe what they're going to try to do is they're going to try to push a false flag. And what do I mean by that? I think what they're going to try to do is they're going to try to do something like they did with the ICE officers in the Tahoe, where they're boxing them in and they want the officers to react. So on the ground, I think they're going to try to push as hard as they possibly can to get the officers to fire back at them, not with a pepper spray gun or a paintball gun or anything like that. I think they want something to happen. Now, if they can't make it happen, remember what they did in Ukraine with the Maidan. When the people were protesting out in the square, what did they do? They used snipers to make it look like the president at the time was firing at the people. I wouldn't be surprised if the deep state players try to push the officers into a place, and when they don't fire back, they will have somebody else firing at Antifa, and they will say it came from the officers. This way they can start their insurrection. They're going to say that they were attacked. So Schiff is saying that Trump is going to launch military strikes on domestic groups. And he says that this cannot be ruled out. So I think he's letting you know this is where all of this is headed. But again, we could see that Trump, he let us know that they were going to reveal the funding, and they've already started to do this. And I do believe they're going to break this down, and they're going to actually track it to exactly how the money is funneled into Antifa, and actually who's been controlling Antifa, because they are a terrorist organization. And now Trump, he's going to designate Antifa as a foreign terrorist group, which means Trump and team can go after these people anywhere. And remember, it's not just Antifa themselves, it's the organization. What does it mean by the organization? It means that anyone that is funding, anyone that is supporting, anyone that is involved, foreign or domestic, it makes no difference. They're part of the terrorist organization. That is who Trump is going to go after. And the deep state players, they won't be able to stop this. They'll try. They're going to push the insurrection. But I do believe this is going to be shut down very, very quickly. I don't mean it's going to happen like, 1 second and 2 seconds later it's shut down. We might see like a day or two of the insurrection, because you have to remember what Trump wants the people to see. He wants the people to see that, look, these people are attacking officers. They're attacking the federal buildings. They're driving the insurgency. And who's assisting them? The mayors, the governors, the Ds, the fake news, which means they're supporting terrorist organizations. And you could see that the judiciary, they've been trying to stop Trump. And they tried to stop him in Portland, Oregon. And it looks like that is not working. The Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals has issued an administrative temporary stay of Oregon District Court Judge Karen Immergut's initial temporary restraining order in the case. So basically, we could see that they tried to stop Trump in Portland. It's not working whatsoever. Now, the other thing that's very interesting, and I do believe that Antifa is also going to play into what happened on January 6th, is that now Christopher Wray is coming under fire. Because you have to remember, this is all connected. All the players are the same. Trump, he put this out on Truth and said, to all the FBI agents who were forced by Christopher Wray to go to the Capitol on the afternoon of January 6th and then risk their careers to blow the whistle about the political bias and abuses they witnessed, I want to thank you for your courage and assure you that you now work for a director, Kash Patel, and Attorney General Pam Bondi, who are stamping out political bias from the Bureau and DOJ and making sure agents pursue criminals without regard to their political stripe. Just the evidence. Keep up the good work. Julie Kelly says the Wall Street Journal is reporting that the former FBI director Christopher Wray is under investigation. Former officials have received subpoenas in recent days in the Wray inquiry, according to a person with direct knowledge of the matter. So now we're starting to see this is starting to spread now. I wonder who's going to sing like a bird, because I do believe as we get closer and closer to the spring and more of these people are subpoenaed, I wouldn't be surprised, and they're isolated. I wouldn't be surprised if more of these individuals start to, sing like birds and actually maybe make deals or do something. Now, even though we know there's not going to be any deals, I do believe the lower level people, I think the deals will be made and they will squeal on the upper level people, because that's who we really want, the upper level people. And let's see how this all plays out. This is going to be very, very interesting. But you can see the Democrats, they're trying to convince the American people that it's a Republican shutdown. But Trump, he keeps reminding everyone during these roundtables and these press conferences, think about all the publicity he's getting, all the different conferences that he's having. He's doing this on purpose because he wants people to understand who Antifa is, what they're capable of, that they're a terrorist group, who's funding them, and that this whole shutdown is a Democrat shutdown. And you can see the Democrats, they're trying to spin everything, but it's not going to work in the end. House Democrats put this out and said, House Democrats will convene to hear from experts and hardworking Americans about the Republican healthcare crisis. Members of Congress will share the stories of their constituents who are being crushed by higher costs or reduced access to care. Rosie Memo says they're trying to trick citizens into thinking this is about them when really it's about illegals. And that's absolutely true. Basically, we know from the documents they wanted to give healthcare to illegals. The American citizen, they're fine. And if they're having trouble with healthcare, well, that's because of Obamacare then. So basically, they're screwing themselves. I mean, really think about this. But think about what the deep state players and what the Ds are doing right now. They're trying to keep the shutdown long enough. Now, I think Trump is hoping that they keep the shutdown long enough so he can just fire everyone permanently. But we've come to find out that they're going to keep the shutdown to at least October 18th. Why do I say this? Well, Lisa May put this out and said, Marsha Blackburn is hearing Senator Schumer has had a war room set up for at least 3 months with everything they want to accomplish during the shutdown. They're hearing Dems want to keep the government shut down to at least until October 18th because there's going to be no King's Rally and it's going to take place in many different cities. That's very, very interesting. So it's going to take place in Boston, Massachusetts, Morristown, New Jersey, Erie, Pennsylvania, New Orleans, San Diego, and Austin, Texas. So this is going to be and Washington, D.C., by the way. So they're doing this on October 18th. Now, are they going to try to push riots during this period of time? Well, it is taking place in a lot of the blue areas, but we'll have to see how this all plays out. Now, again, you can see Swalwell's involved in this. They're all involved in this. And this is their No Kings Rally. And what they're trying to do right now is get their groups together. Now, is this going to be the insurrection? We'll have to see how this all plays out. But it's very interesting that they're going to have a No Kings Rally during the month of October, where we're told it might be a red October. Now, they might try to push something. Let's see how it plays out. And Trump says if this shutdown goes much further, they're going to look to get a bill together to pay the military. And like I said before, I think this is what the deep state players are trying to do. They're trying to force the agents, force the National Guard to give up their ranks. And since they're not getting pay, they're hoping that these people will just go home. Maybe if we don't pay the Democrats, the rhinos, and those people in Congress during the shutdown, maybe they'll go home. Because, again, why are they getting paid? Again, if they're representing the country, they should be the first ones to lose their paycheck. Just like that. You know what? You should experience what everyone else is experiencing. But again, we have to ask the question, why do they give themselves raises? And why are they getting paid? I think the American people, just like we vote for our representatives, I think the American people should vote to see if these people get a raise. Because if they're not doing a good job, why would we give them a raise? I don't think they should get a raise. And I don't think they should be in control of this. But let's see how this all plays out as we move further into the future here. Now, the other thing that's very interesting is that Trump, he let us know that as the Democrats keep the government shut down, he says we'll be making cuts that will be permanent. And we're only going to cut Democrat programs. So this is going to be very, very interesting moving forward. And we can see that the deep state players, they're trapped in all of this. And as Trump and team continually indicts people that were set up to go after Trump, the deep state players are going to become more and more desperate as time goes on. And what's very interesting is that Scavino, he reposted a post on X from July 31st, 2025, and it says, they Dems thought Trump and those close to him would be in prison by now. That was their endgame after a long 9-year journey, but he's back. And the cover-up is unraveling before our very eyes. Buckle up and sleep tight, you all. You know who you are. TikTok. Absolutely. And he also put out another post on X, and he purposely put the date on this. And it's a picture of Trump in the White House, and it says 10/8/2025, 8:29 p.m. So if you look at post 829, it says, Zebra, Zebra, Bring the Thunder, Killbox, 1A23X, Light, T1A23, G05. So Zebra, Zebra, this is seen as a coded all clear or activation signal. Bring the Thunder, call to action, meaning to unleash overwhelming force, like airstrikes, artillery, or something else. Killbox 1 through 23X. Killbox is legitimate U.S. military terminology from Joint Operations Doctrine, referring to a pre-designated geographic area where lethal strikes can be executed without needing to coordinate with nearby friendly forces. Light, T1A. This seems like encrypted targeted data mimicking laser-guided munitions protocols or something like that. So are they, is Trump and the Patriots, are they in attack mode right now? Are they preparing for maybe a false flag or something to happen in Ukraine, Russia? Or riots in this country. Well, we're going to have to see how it all plays out, but I do believe that Trump and the Patriots, they've been preparing for all this, and we'll see what occurs in the next couple of weeks in the month of October. But you could see as time goes on, the D's, they're going to be more and more panicked. And as more and more people are indicted, as Trump ushers in peace in many different locations, this is going to put a lot of strain on the deep state players because they're running out of ammunition. They're running out of the ability to distract the people, and they're losing their leverage. And this is what Trump wants in the end. He wants to take all of their leverage away and make them very, very weak. Because once all of this is gone and they're at a state where they can't do anything, the easy part is rounding them up. The easy part is bringing them to justice. But before that happens, we need to make sure that we have the correct and the right people in place who are going to follow the rule of law. When they take an oath, they're going to have to follow their oath. So that means we have to remove all the blackmail, corrupt individuals, especially in the judiciary. And we're going to have to remove a lot of the prosecutors and the attorney generals. So I do believe Trump has planned this out, and we're heading in the right direction. And eventually, and I don't think it's going to take that long, we're definitely going to see justice. Why? Because the Patriots are in control. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.